Welcome to another episode of my weekly audio journal. At least that's what it's supposed to be. You may have noticed that last weekend there was no podcast to watch or listen to, and that is because, as you probably know now, we were in Hawaii, Maui specifically. And last Sunday, there's nothing more that I wanted to do than to fire up a podcast and talk from this beautiful, luscious green scenery behind me, maybe with some waves crashing, the sunlight coming down, whale jumping out of the ocean and splashing down right behind my scene. I wanted to do an episode out there, but Cody and I have talked about this before, and we feel like it's not a great idea to broadcast when you're traveling or not at home. Just in the rare instance that someone's like, "Oh, they're thousands of miles away. It'd be a great time to go raid their house potentially." So we try not to advertise when we're not here. This past vacation, I probably let the cat out of the bag more than I have ever done before. Usually it's just like, hey, surprise, we're back and we were in this place. But in this case, I ended up having to skip an episode because we were on our second to last day in Maui last Sunday. That actually was our last day. So I guess I don't want to spoil that with sitting down and doing a podcast. I'd rather be out doing adventurous things, which is what we did instead. But it would have been a really cool thing to have a podcast episode from there. And there's a dream of mine, and I was going to talk about this a little later, but I feel like now's a great time. It's kind of a dream of mine now. I've kind of caught the travel bug. As a kid, my parents didn't have a lot of money. We really didn't do much of anything. We didn't travel anywhere. And now as an adult, I'm kind of making up for lost time. And even almost so much of my life is kind of just trying to recapture my childhood and or making up for things that I maybe missed out on childhood, with the excuse that I have a kid now. So now I get to do all these fun things and get to experience with him, which is so amazing. And I was thinking how cool would it be to have a channel where you just get to travel around and do awesome stuff all the time. I mentioned my hopeful channel in the future, which is called Pizza, Pretzels, Pickles, and Parks and Pools maybe. And that would be a cool thing to do, but going places and documenting that, maybe less as a vlog series and more of dedicated videos to each of these things. That way, when people search for it on YouTube, it's not just hey, watch me do my first day in Maui, for example. It's oh, what's it like to swim at this bay, or what's it like to eat at this place? I think that would be really good for the YouTube algorithms and such, and maybe help people find us, and then maybe they like us through those videos. Maybe we can win them over potentially. But it's something that's on my mind, and I thought something that would be really fun to do in the future. But then there's this alternate reality of Greg's future as I speak in the third person, where I want to do Greg's farm. And that involves having all of my animals and my life dream to have goats and a pig and chickens, which I have currently, and ducks and all of these things. But it's hard to do that where you need to kind of be there to take care of them and also to do the travel thing. So there might be a few different chapters that you can expect here in the future, but this is definitely something that I would like to explore a little bit further. And as we were gone, I was coming up with all of these ideas on what we could do and all these cool ideas and concepts that I came up with, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But before I do that, I don't want to recap my entire trip because I've done that through video. I have everything recorded. I'm in the process of editing that. So I'm not going to be oh, okay, our first day we did this, our second day we did this, third day we did this. I thought instead I'd do what people on live streams love the most, and that's talk about my favorite things and least favorite things. So obviously my favorite thing about going to Maui was the weather. As you probably are very well aware, because I make it very clear, I really don't like cold weather. I hate the winters in Pennsylvania. I find it to be very depressing to look outside and see nothing but gray, to have it be cold, to have to wear something other than shorts and a t-shirt makes me very sad. And if it was up to me, I would live in a warm climate. I'm kind of a victim of circumstance because this is where my parents lived and probably where their parents lived. And now we've grown up here and we've stayed around because of family and connections and friends and jobs and things like that. But if it was just me, and I'm able to be location independent, which I am through YouTube, I would live in a place where I could be warm all year. That's what I would really love. I could see myself maybe being in Florida, although I haven't been down there during the summertime where the humidity takes over. I don't know if I would love that. I thought about maybe the Southwest, Arizona, you got it nice and warm out there, but then what happens when they run out of water? Which as I look through news articles on Reddit, I'm seeing bad things happening out that way. Maybe Southern California. earthquakes. So, I mean, Pennsylvania is nice because there are no like natural disasters. I'm not going to get hit by a hurricane. I'm not going to, you could have an earthquake here potentially. We've had like minor ones, but not like life shattering earthquakes. You don't have a situation where you're going to run out of water, most likely. There could be a drought, but there's a lot of fresh water in our area. So, I mean, it is a good location for that. But my goodness, if I had to choose anywhere in this world to live, it would be Hawaii, because I haven't been many places in my life. We haven't done a whole lot of extensive traveling, but I can't imagine a more beautiful place on this planet than Hawaii. It's just, it's gorgeous. And the weather just brightened my soul to like get off the plane in the middle of the night. Our flight was delayed by like 4 or 5 hours. I had it all planned out where we were going to leave here at like 8 o'clock in the morning and get there 2 o'clock in the afternoon their time because of time travel and the way that they're 5 hours behind us. It was like almost like leaping back in time a little bit. Our flight was delayed a couple times, so that kind of ruined that. Which, speaking of flights, let me just say this. We decided to do a direct flight just so we could get there in one shot and not have to do layovers and worry about our baggage and everything else getting there. And we actually flew first class, which I was expecting like some pushback from people in comments about that. You know, it's like, oh, it must be nice. I did see one person. It was actually a funny comment. They're like, oh, those Lego videos must be paying off. But no, listen, this is the first and only and last time that we will ever do that. And I was really debating it. Cody and I went back and forth on it. She has back issues and she wanted to be able to lay flat. And if you've ever flown on a plane, you know, you basically have enough room to sit there and you might be able to like move your leg to the side a little bit if you're in like a regular seat. And the prospect of doing that for about 12 hours was daunting. And we looked at the price and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. This is the worst financial decision I've ever made in my life. And I pride myself on making good financial decisions in most cases. But we ultimately were like, you know what? You only live this life one time. And I'm trying to remind myself of that because I've lived my life so much. And I've talked about this extensively in previous podcasts. I've lived my life so much preparing for the future, planning for the future, putting off gratification today so I can do something later. Live like no one else today so I can live and give like no one else in the future. Dave Ramsey fans, are you out there? And at some point, you know, I'm nearing 40 years old now. I'm just rounding up at this point. I'm 38. I'm just going to round that I'm 40. At some point, you just got to start existing. You got to live, you know, you got to do things. And I was like, if I can give my family this experience, if we just do it this one time, let's just do it. Just so we can say that we did it, not to brag, but just like to do it. And we did. And it was nice. I mean, it was nice being able to like completely recline. They give you really nice food. It was definitely more fancy than I needed. I literally, like, all I need is a place to just put my legs up. If I could just do that on a plane and recline a little bit, that'd be great. Like if you could just maybe take out a couple rows out of like the normal class of seats and give people the ability to move ever so slightly, that would be nice. I'd be okay with that. But man, it made the trip a lot better. Clark man was in heaven. He had his own like little compartment. The plane we took down there or over there, I should say, and down was way more luxurious than the one that we had coming back. But it was a whole experience. And it was the only time I'll ever do it. I won't do that again. I think if I had to go back to Hawaii, I would break it. Like we're leaving from Pennsylvania for anyone that doesn't know where we live. I would break it somewhere out in the West Coast. Like I think I would probably like go to LAX and have a layover there. I was thinking what we could do if we ever do this again, which, you know, like Cody is like talking about wanting to move there. This is what I was hoping for actually. Like it was so beautiful and amazing there that my goal was like to have her love it so much that when she had to come back to Pennsylvania, it would crush her soul, which it kind of did for both of us. And we would have to find a way to live there. Living there might be a little difficult though, which is something I'll talk about, my not so favorite things. But back to the weather. Getting off the plane and it being like 7 o'clock at night there, and it was like 80 degrees and the warm air flows over you. It was incredible. And like the weather was just so nice all week. It was like being transported from February in Pennsylvania to being teleported to like August, like June, July, August here in Pennsylvania. It was just like such a relief. So that was my favorite thing. But like right on top of that, the weather's great and all. But what I love more than anything about Hawaii is the snorkeling opportunities. I had no idea that Maui was like the snorkel capital of the world. I love swimming. It's like one of my jams. That's why pretzels, pizza, pretzels, pickles, and pools and parks may be a thing. We're just adding as many things on. I love swimming and going there to snorkel and seeing all the awesome fish in these beautiful waters and sea turtles and seeing whales. In fact, we went out on like a boat and did like a whole event doing all of that. It was amazing. I went through like all the different bays, some of them more than once. I need to start the channel where it's just like Greg's snorkeling. That would be my life dream. Forget the farm, forget the travel. Let's just do Greg's snorkeling. I think that would probably get old pretty quick. My first like 30 seconds were like, okay, thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. But yeah, it's my favorite memory is snorkeling. I just love it. Not so favorite things about Maui. Again, you'll see all of the stuff we did in the videos. I would assume that like 100% of people that are listening to this probably are also subscribed to our vlog channel. There's a lot of crossover. Like I don't think many people just found this as a podcast. They're like, oh, this is cool. What else does this guy do? Have you ever wondered that? My not so favorite things about Maui, probably number one least favorite thing, the parking situation. Cody and I always make this joke called too many humans. Anytime we're going somewhere or driving somewhere, if you're on the highway, it's super busy. Whereas like too many humans. And Maui is kind of like that. In fact, I talked to the guy at the airport when we were leaving, and he said that airport was designed to serve about half as many people a day that actually go through there. So as a result, the island's kind of set up that way too. And anytime you go somewhere, and this is like off season, believe it or not, like the most popular times to go there is in the summertime when families are available, when school's out. It just felt like everywhere we went, parking was like a stressor for me. Having the car and like trying to figure out a place to park it. And oftentimes the places are full. We got lucky more times than what I could ask for. But there was a couple things we wanted to do that there was just nowhere to park. Like there was this town that Cody wanted to go through to go to this health food store that this lady on this tour that we went on, the Road to Hana as it's called, where you go the whole way around Hawaii. She mentioned like this is like the most epic health food store, and Cody of course wanted to go there because that's one of her passions. We went through that town. There was no parking. I drove like half a mile up the road. People are like parking along the road like for half a mile up, and we eventually get to a spot and I'm like, do you just want to park here? And Cody's like, nah, just forget it. And then also we wanted to get breakfast the last day, but there was just no parking anywhere. We went to breakfast. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning and island time, I guess they call it. So everybody's kind of getting up and around, and it's in Lahaina, which is like the area where everyone's shopping and conducting business at. And there's just like, we had to bail on it because we only had so much time, and then we have to wait. I did find a parking spot, but then you have to pay for parking, and one of the things was broken, so there was a line of people. It was just like, oh my God, if we could just do Maui without a car, I think it'd be better, but you need a car there. We rented one, and you need that because you're all over the place. We drove around that island so much. It was incredible. We also did something amazing that I've never done before, which was riding in a helicopter. We did the Road to Hana took us across the island, and then instead of riding or driving back, we booked a tour that included a helicopter ride all the way back. So it was just crazy. It was my dream vacation that I've always wanted to do in my life. Hawaii has always been that place for me that I've been like, I would kill to go there. Luckily, I didn't have to kill anyone yet. And it lived up to all my expectations. Maui was incredible, and I want nothing more than just to like live there. But that takes me to the other not so favorite thing. The prices of things. As expected, you're on an island with a lot of tourists, and everything has to come in, and people have come in with money, and the people that live there have money, and everything's super expensive. Like a half gallon of milk was $9.50. I shot some of that in the video, but like we walk out of the store with a bag of groceries, it's $100. Everything is expensive everywhere you go. So that would be the one deterrent about actually living there, is that you can't afford to live there. We asked someone, it was late at the airport. Cody's a teacher, obviously, and they were talking about, like Cody's mentioned about how wanting to live there, and she's like, oh, teachers here are in super high demand because they only make like $45,000, $50,000 a year, and in your neck of the woods in West Virginia, right? Like that's like, hey, that's pretty good. You can buy a nice house for that. You can have a car, all of these things. She's like, most teachers here live in a house full of teachers. Like they can't afford to live on their own, and sometimes they have extra jobs, and sometimes they just don't even have teachers to teach. So what they do with the kids is they just put them in the cafeteria all day. It's essentially like just like doing your prison time. So some days there just aren't even teachers. So Cody could very easily go out there and teach. The problem is she would be in such absolute poverty being a teacher there that you almost couldn't justify it. Maybe with like YouTube and stuff, we could pull it off, but like just to get a house there, like a plot of land to build a house on, not even like acreage. We're just talking like a little plot of land to fit a house is like $1 million. I was just looking on realtor.com out of curiosity. I mean, houses are in the millions, and it's like for like our house in Hawaii, like buying this would probably be like $2.5 million, something like that. I mean, depending on the location, obviously, highly coveted area. It's just unaffordable. So we're gonna have to resort to just travels for the foreseeable future, and I think that's fine. Sometimes, like, maybe you lose appreciation for things. Like, I don't think living in a particular place increases or decreases your happiness. I can say maybe with some certainty that if I lived in a nice warm area with lots of sunshine and I could go outside all the time and walk around, I think I would be like happier. But I don't think it would be like exponentially happier, like living in a place like that than living here. I think happiness oftentimes comes from within, or maybe the things you're working on, or like your goals and things you're working towards. I think that's oftentimes where we derive our meaning from. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's people that are depressed that live in Maui, like it's like maybe the weather isn't everything, but also the appreciation level. Like when you come from a place like this to a place like that, it's almost like being like you're starving, for example, and then you get like a really delicious meal and you're just like, oh, this meal is so good. But if you eat that meal every day and then they put the meal in front of you, you're just like, oh, just life. It's what I live. So you adjust to that. But I love the trip nonetheless. If I don't think I need to sell anyone on wanting to go there. Again, super expensive to get there just because of the flight. Even if you just take, regular plane tickets, it's expensive and a lot of time to get there. Staying there is expensive, but ultimately, if you can swing it, it's totally worth it. And it was a dream come true for me to get to go there, and I'm so thankful that we got to do that. And I'm thankful for the opportunities we have, and I got to share that Clark man, create a lifelong memory with him and with my wife. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy to do that. So thankful to have that experience. I wish my parents could have like seen this or like been there too, but making up for lost time. That's what my life is about right now. Do everything that I can to live to the fullest, while also being somewhat responsible. I'm still that guy. I'm still that guy that's the saver. But you can't take it with you, Someday we're all going to die. And do you want to die with nothing to show for it? And I'm not talking about finances. Anyways, had a great time there as well with food. As you'll see in the videos, every time I go on vacation, I ball out of control. You guys know I've been on this weight loss journey leading up to when we were leaving, and I was doing really well. Well, when we were there, I ended up coming back and stepping on the scale and being like, because I put on, and actually it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I put on 2.2 pounds while we were gone. So if you do that, the calorie calculations on that, we were gone for about 10 days. There's 3,500 calories in a pound. So maybe like between 8,000 and 9,000 extra calories consumed in that week. No regrets, because now as of today, I am down 0.2 pounds from the time that we left. So I've lost 2.4 pounds since we've been home, and we've been home for about a week. So I went up 2.2. Now I'm down 2.4, so net loss, and that's feeling good. My weight is looking like my bank account now after the trip, a loss. So that wasn't too bad, and I went crazy there. But now we're back on the routine. I'm going to keep updating you guys each week. I don't know if anybody out there's trying to get in shape along with me, or maybe doing a similar journey. But I feel like if I share it here, it keeps me accountable, and maybe you get inspired too, or maybe we're just doing this together, and you're like, all right, Greg, good job with your 2.4. I'll see that, and I'll raise you a 4.8. I'm like, dang, dude, you're crazy. But now that we're back, speaking of being back with getting back on track. Life kind of sucks, right? I'm pretty much editing all the time. And not only that, like that's pretty much all I'm doing. And I was making my No Zero Days videos, but then I kind of stopped because all I was showing was like, hey, I'm working on this video. Okay, we're going to get groceries. Okay, I'm back to working this video. I just made a Brickitect video. Now I'm back to working on this video. And it wasn't interesting or entertaining. So I'm like, you know what? I can still be living the No Zero Day life philosophy, which is working towards your goals. And editing those videos is that. But I don't think it's super interesting for someone to tune into. So I just kind of bailed on that for the time being. It's going to take me a long time to get through all these videos. And that's kind of the gift and the curse when it comes to these vacations, especially with how much I document. Like each day I'm recording like an hour and a half of content, and I'm like boiling that down to like a 15-minute video that I feel like is good pace, not like TikTok pace or like some craziness, but like, just sharing like the highlights and things of like our experience there. And I enjoy doing that, but I do wonder, like maybe going forward, as I mentioned a little at the top of the show here, maybe our travel videos become more like reviews essentially, or like our experiences at certain things. That way it's not so burdensome to edit because it's like, you can just go and film your dinner, for example. And then when people search for things, and that's what I found useful when I was like researching Maui and like learning about what we could do there. I didn't watch anybody's like, oh, this is just my day, and oh, here's my kid playing in the pool, and here's us, doing whatever. It was like, this is what it's like when you go hiking in this spot. This is what it's like to take a helicopter ride, and that I found useful. So oftentimes on YouTube, it's about providing value, but I'm a vlogger at heart. My whole thing is just sharing like what we're up to. And I think to a very dedicated audience, that's really fun to see. And maybe you want the more personal side of things, but I think I could jump back and forth. And that's kind of what I do in the world of Lego. I share things like specifically, but I also kind of put my like a personal touch on it. And I think that's important because not many people, like you'd be surprised the number of people that make videos that I just think like lack that. But I think a lot of it is just because as a society, we're pretty guarded with things, and we don't like to put ourselves out there too much. Like even this podcast, I put myself out here way more than like, I'm sure 99% of you, unless you're that one guy that has a podcast that also does this, you know what I'm talking about. You would never sit down and talk about your week like this and all your ups and downs and what you're thinking about. You would never, ever consider this. In fact, most of you don't even some of you don't even feel comfortable like even leaving a comment. I don't care if you do or not, but like, I'm just saying that is an example of like how guarded we are, and for good reason. Like I put myself and my family out there probably way more than most people would ever consider. But then you find yourself being interested in it because it is interesting seeing how other people live and what's on other people's hearts and minds, and the fact that someone's willing to share it in a way that isn't like just normal, like we're just having a conversation here, a one-sided one at that. But I think that's cool, and this is like the stuff that I really am into. So yeah, I'm back in the grind. The Lego channel, I felt bad because it was so neglected. It had been like, maybe, I don't even know, I didn't even put a video out in February at all. So I came back and started working towards that, and it was nice to see the community still there. And I was thinking a lot about that too after I made my first video when we got back, and there were so many really nice and positive comments. I was thinking about how thankful I am to have that community. And it's just, there's no negativity. It's just people like being like supportive, and I love it. I love the Lego side of things. Clark and I came up with this amazing idea. We were brainstorming this idea on the way down. We're driving. I still remember we're driving through Pennsylvania on our way to New Jersey to stay the night so we could leave the next day. And he came up, I don't know if it was his idea or mine, but we came up with this idea called the Great Lego Race, where I take some Hot Wheels tracks and I'm like going to tape them together or do something that you could put like a Lego car onto and then race them down. And my idea for this was to get our community involved, speaking of community, by setting some rules for like races. Almost have like a tournament with a prize, but like the rules would be your car has to be, this wide, and it has to have a minifigure, like your sig fig inside of it somewhere, and it has to be like, I don't know if I do like a length rule or whatever, but like a certain dimensions for the car, and then have people send us their car in the mail. We still have our post office box. I've tried to stop people from sending us stuff because we have too much as it is. I was trying to instead encourage people to accept stickers from us, which we gave a ton of those away. But I really wanted to do this thing where people send us their car. I'll open up their box, show off their car, and if they have like a little letter in there, a note about them, they have to name their car or something, so it has like a name. And then when we get a whole bunch of those, assuming that, say, maybe 10 people participate, we'll do a tournament where we race all those cars down the track. So we'll have like 2 cars go with like a thing that goes up and then race them down the Hot Wheels track through our basement. And then the winner moves on to the next round and so forth until we get an ultimate winner, and that person gets a prize. Maybe we have some consolation prizes as well. I think that'd be a really cool thing to get people involved and do my ultimate goal, which is to encourage people to get creative with Lego and to get building. And I could see maybe some like parents and kids doing it together. I just think it's a cool idea. The only thing that kind of like hurts it a little bit is the fact that you have to build something and then like put it in the mail, and then hopefully it gets here in one piece. It has to be kind of sturdy. Otherwise, I'll have to do my best to kind of piece it together. But I was thinking this could be a cool thing to do over summer when Clark Man's home, so we can do this together. And I think he would really dig that. And then we can crown a winner of the Great Lego Race. But I also have ideas for like being more creative in Lego, making my own stuff. Oh my God, it was just all flowing through me. And I'm excited for that. Like, I definitely see Lego being a big part of my future too. I have so many futures, man. Where do we go? There's like all these multiverses. There's Farmer Greg. There's traveling Greg. There's Lego Greg. Can I be all these people at once? That's what I want to do. I need more lives. I need more time. I need to find some of those green mushrooms rolling across the screen so I can get some one ups so I can do all the things that I want to do. But that's kind of one of the ideas that I had in that regard. And, obviously I'm always brainstorming about Greg's World and what we can do here. I want to get back into doing RC. Clarkman's talking about going back to the skate park with RC stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've missed that. Like wintertime is kind of sabotages in that regard too, because it's cold outside. So I don't know. There's so many big things that I'm excited about, and I hope that you are as well. Speaking of big things, we're almost done with the next segment here. This is my We Connect card box. We've got like 2 weeks of this left, which is good because these are 3 questions, by the way, which I'll answer here in a second. I want to start a new series, I guess it's a series on this channel where it's Ask Greg, but I'm going to go to Ask Reddit and answer like a whole bunch of the top questions, kind of like a rapid fire type thing. Some of them aren't necessarily appropriate for all listening audiences, so we'll avoid those ones, but there's a whole ton of like people that submit questions on there that people answer, and I want to do that as a series as opposed to these ones. I think that would be a much better and more interesting series that would be like its own thing. But nonetheless, we're going to get through the last few of these. And we're going to start with the green card, which is the easiest one. This says, what was happening the last time you laughed so hard that you cried? And I'm going to pull I don't cry when I laugh. I don't think I've ever like cried or teared up when I laugh. I know that's a thing for some people. Some people like cry tears of happiness when they're really happy. I don't think that's happened to me either. But I do know some situations that I have memories of where I've laughed so hard uncontrollably that it hurt. And usually it involves Cody. Like, we'll get each other laughing. Like she'll start laughing and then I'll start laughing. And then it just does this thing where it's back and forth. It's like that thing where you see someone puke and then you puke and then someone else pukes. It's like a domino effect. This is one of those things where we're just like, stop laughing. And then you're just going back and forth, just cackling to the point where like your stomach literally hurts from laughing. And those are such good experiences. Like how good does it feel to laugh uncontrollably? It doesn't happen very often in your life. So when it does happen, you're just like, but I don't have like one experience or what the joke was or what we were laughing about. But I love that like going back and forth style where you're just going crazy with the laughs. This next one here. What is the time you learned something from a failure? I'm gonna have to come back to this one. Give me a month or 2 on this, and I'll be back to discuss something with you. I actually got some news when I came home that was not good, but I'm making my way through it, and I don't want to discuss it necessarily until everything's resolved. Just know, like, it's not a huge deal. It's kind of huge deal, but it's not like it's not like I have cancer. We're not dying. There's nothing like that. But I'll talk more about it in a future episode. Let's go on to the last one here. What has been one of your favorite moments in life? I hate to be a cheater on this one, but this last week might have been one of my favorite moments. Like these travel experiences, creating these lasting memories, especially for Clarkman and for Cody too, because I kind of look at these excursions that we go on as almost like making up for my goals. Like I had this goal in like my 20s and early 30s where I was like, we're gonna get out of debt. We're gonna work our way out of debt so we have some freedom in life. And it was like my biggest focus. And as a result, we neglected a lot of like these experiences, right? I hit that goal, and it was good that I did because then I left my job, and it was easier to do that when you don't have all this debt weighing over you. And then I was able to start working towards my dream, and my dream has worked its way up, and it's been incredible. But I don't think I would have done that had I not sacrificed. But now is the time where it's like, okay, let's make up for this. You're taking this year off. Let's go have these experiences that we missed out on, but have it be even better. Because we got Clarkman with us, and had we done this when I was at my job where we didn't have a lot of extra money to spend, we would have never been able to do the plane like we did or do the helicopter thing. It would have been we probably would have never been able to go to Hawaii. Like it would have been like some like road trips places. So like I look at those sacrifices that I made as worth it now, but it does suck to like have missed some of those free moments when you don't have a kid, because now it's like a lot more to manage. But it's also amazing because you get to share that with another person who's going to remember this for the rest of his life. And who knows what that's going to inspire in him, like snorkeling with a sea turtle. Maybe that has like this lasting impact on you where you're like, I want to be a marine biologist, something that would have never happened before. You just never know. So for me, it's totally worth the sacrifice that I made, but I'm trying to make it up to Cody specifically, like, okay, this was all worth it, right? Like you stuck it out with me. My crazy, like, I don't do anything just a little bit. I do everything like super dedicated, and you're with me on my goals to get all that stuff paid off and to open up our lives. And now we've opened our lives, and now we get to reap the rewards. And I don't say any of this to brag or boast, and I don't think anyone would take it as that. This is more of me just kind of like, just letting you know how I feel. And I don't have any I don't have any regrets. I think this has been amazing. So I'm going to cheat and say that was one of my favorite moments in life. Obviously, you could do other cheats, like the time you got married in Jamaica. That's the one other time we've like gone internationally, other than when we went to the UK. So it's like we haven't done a lot of traveling. So now we're making up for lost time. And you could say the day your son was born. But I'm going to go with these vacations. These experiences that we have are life changing, and just absolutely incredible. So on that, that's pretty much all I have to cover this week. I'm just editing videos, which you'll see. I'm going to jump into listener feedback, and it's been a while. I couldn't even remember what I talked about last time, but here we go. Let's go into some really good stuff. I read through these beforehand. First one is from Tracy, who says, my oldest children are 18 and 17, and they've started to make nostalgic observations of their childhood. It has gotten me reflecting like you did about what makes a good childhood experience. It doesn't seem to be the era you grew up in. However, one of my boys thanked me for exposing him to things from my childhood, in part because we still had those things. He was grateful for knowing record players, VHS, typewriters, old Nintendo games. We help shape our children's childhoods by what we help them experience and value. Thanks for another good podcast. Happy Groundhog Day. That's how long it's been since we made one. Feels like a lifetime ago for me. I like that you have shared that about your kids, because like in my mind, and maybe this is how everyone feels, like you feel like you grew up in the last great generation of being a child. Maybe people in the 50s probably felt that. People in the 60s probably felt that. 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe the 2010s. Maybe those kids are like, man, I grew up when there was internet and I could watch YouTube and I was able to text my friends and we played Fortnite together. Maybe this is the greatest time to be a child. I guess like as an adult, and there's another comment that kind of comes up about this, which I'll actually read next. As an adult, you're exposed to so many like realities of the world that I think that kind of weighs you down. That as a kid, regardless of when you grew up, you don't see that or experience it. So maybe it's always being good when you're a kid, depending on like your family situation, your home life and stuff. But maybe like it's always the best time is what I'm trying to say. Next comment here is from CJ DJ Master. He says, I miss being a kid as well as my adolescent years. You had less to worry about. Everything was fun for the most part. This is what I was just discussing. And I had many friends and many good times with all of them. I miss all the things that are gone and that I don't get to do that are nostalgic to me. Now that I'm an adult, I look at the world differently because you have to be responsible and take care of yourself. You have to know what's going on in the world and have more responsibilities and things to worry about. As a kid, you don't worry about those things, usually because your parents worry about it and take care of it. That's a great point. I think that's what makes a good childhood. I lived through the 2008 crash as a kid, and I could see a little bit of how my parents were stressed and tightening the budget. But at the end of the day, me and my siblings had a roof over our head and were fed and went to school and still hung out with our friends and played video games or tag outside or whatever. I also now have serious health issues that restrict me and hold me back from being realistic with myself. Being realistic with myself, and I wish that were not the case, but I make the best of it. I think people correct things because they were taught at an early age what is right and what is wrong as well in school. So when you see something that is wrong or even may even be right, but when we're taught differently, it bugs us to the core. Yeah, that was another topic that we talked about last week. And people feel the need to correct it, so they either feel what is wrong will be right or some selfish reason like I'm smarter than you attitude. Yeah, I think that's something. You nailed that nail on the head, hammer on the head, whatever that phrase is. I'm failing at life. I'm failing at reading too. That was a lot to take in. But I think ultimately, as a kid, you are sheltered from all those things. And that's kind of what I was talking about. I think it was one of the 3 questions, like something that you miss. And it was like that age of innocence where you don't have so many adult worries. And like, I think about that sometimes as Clark, man. It's so nice just to get I talked about parking, for example, in Hawaii. It's nice just to go along for the ride and not have to worry about all this, that. You're just along and you just get to enjoy the greatest things. You don't have to worry about the bad things. And then as an adult, like you have to take those on, obviously. So it's very easy to miss that. And as far as correcting things, I do think that's the case. Like with school, it is either right or wrong. And they do a great job of telling you that there is no other solution. Even if you find one, it's like, this is the way you're meant to do it. And I think that just sticks with us throughout our years. Be interesting to see people that are homeschooled or maybe had alternative schools, maybe if they act the same way as that. Because I don't know, I think that's something that gets ingrained in you, like right, wrong, and if you do it this way, reward, you do it this way, punishment, whether it be grades or otherwise. Another one here, Natural Fitness Foodie, says, I also miss the good old days and simpler times, but if it wasn't for YouTube, I'd never have met you, and that would be a pity. I love hearing about your life and really enjoy your perspective. All right. Happy that Roxy is doing well. Hopefully she has many more healthy years with you guys. And she goes on to say that the younger door dashing, my 22-year-old orders multiple times a week. Oh, my wallet hurts. Would love to see the city trip video sometime. Yeah, I have to work on that. So, yeah, I think I did a live stream yesterday on Brickitect where it was a lot of just discussing things from our childhoods and things. And I'm starting to feel like the old guy where I'm like, oh man, I remember back in the 90s when I loved this or that. And like, I do wonder how like the younger kids relate to that. Like, does it feel like one of those back in my day type speeches where it's like, oh, back in my day, we had, we had it real good or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit older just in discussions and things, I suppose. Next one comes from Adrian, who says, I totally agree with you on the good old days before technology took over. Even though I was born in 2007, my childhood and even my early teen years were much better than things are now. Man, 2007, you were born like after the iPhone already existed and Facebook and YouTube. Like, I don't know if you know what the good old days before technology were. Maybe you can imagine what that was like, but you grew up in that. You were a part of that. You were probably one of like the iPad babies or whatever. And maybe not necessarily you. I'm just saying like the kids that you see in the grocery store that are 1 year old and they're in the grocery cart with their iPad. That's modern reality. Zero says, great podcast, sir. Had a lot to say about this episode and appreciate your thoughts and making us think, but too much to type and you know what happens. It was a truly great listening. Still have the Falcon Knight if you want. Throw me a sticker and I'll call it even. Oh, you got it. Janelle says, I miss shopping at the farmer's market in Virginia Beach. There was a dollhouse store there. I miss listening to the top 40 countdown Sunday morning. See, this is how we date ourselves. The 80s were the best time to be a kid. The world has really gotten worse since the year 2000. That I'm going to agree with. Like, I was born in 1984, and I think about like the 80s and 90s seem good. Maybe if you were an adult in those years, maybe not so much. Hard to say. But then like 2001, obviously you have the terrorists hitting the World Trade Center and all of that happening and changing the world. And then you have the financial crash, and it just seems like things just... You have COVID happening. I know these are all like almost decades apart, but it just seems like things are just like worse. You've got this inflation situation, worse. When are we going to be like, oh man, things are so good right now? When are we going to be able to say that? When's the last time anybody here was just like, man, things are so good right now? Maybe, I mean, not necessarily just for you personally, but like for the world as a whole. Maybe it was never that way. Maybe we just look back and we're like, oh, things were good, but maybe they weren't. I don't know. This is getting depressing, isn't it? Here's a good one. James says, I lost 5 pounds in January. Back to some positivity. Not drastically reducing like you did, just back to being more mindful and getting moving more. My mantra, eat less, move more, sleep, repeat. And he goes on to say the worst place to CMF search is Barnes & Noble. I think I talked about when I was feeling all the bags in Target and feeling like a weirdo. He says, it's like talking in a library. All the silent reader types scowl at you. Stick to Target, Greg. And then he says, I think your view of your fridge is your view, inside or outside. It's how you see it. Yeah, what's on your fridge? I was thinking like, what's on your fridge door? I was like looking inside. I'm like, oh, we've got all these condiments. The outside of your fridge, I guess, is what the question was. And we have magnets. At least here we do. Upstairs, our fridge is unfortunately not magnetic, which is a bummer. No wrong answer or viewpoint, just different. My fridge door has magnets from our trips. And that school lunch menu you mentioned outside, it has milk and condiments on the inside. I'm out of pickles, so I need more. I know a channel you could subscribe to. Pizzas, pretzels, pickles, and parks and pools. I don't know. We're still working on the name, but I might be able to give you some good pickle recommendations if we make this a thing. He says, it's only 588 miles from my house to the Ben & Jerry's factory. I used to live 10 miles from it. It's worth it either way. New York Super Fudge Chunk. Are you in Vermont? I think we went there. We visited our friends in Vermont. We went to the Ben & Jerry's factory. I don't know if that's like the main one, but it was in Vermont. It says New York Super Fudge Chunk, Milk Chocolate Chunk, Coconut 7 Layers Bar. We're getting everybody hungry here. He says, all worth the bike run, jog, elliptical, swim, squat, and yoga poses needed to burn it off. For sheer quantity per calorie, I'd stick to Breyers. Half the calories at the same serving, and more ice cream is better. If you need a guest pinter, let me know. Hey, I'm trying to quit. This says, I would subscribe to your pizza, pretzels, pickles, and parks. I think it's a banging channel. I think it could be a big thing. Greg's World could totally just become that. And let's see. Oh, here you go. I like this one. I've heard of this before. Trace Kill TV says, Greg, if you want a good dose of nostalgia, which I'm always in the mood for, says go check out Gilbert Arcianega on YouTube. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's basically his own home movies from 1988 all the way up till now that he actively uploads videos from exactly 20 and 30 years ago to the date. That's cool. How about some like future thinking there? Like, I'm going to document all this. He had no idea YouTube was ever going to exist or what he would do with these, but now he can share them. I got to go check that out. And here you go. Felix says, I didn't realize on last week's podcast it's meant on the outside of the fridge door. I commented, I have candy in my fridge door. See, we're all same here. We're all same. We're all on this journey together, whether it's right or wrong, whether we're making good decisions or bad ones. We're doing it. We're living life, and we're trying to do it to the best of our abilities. And for me, trying to share it here with you and whatever that entails. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I wasn't sure how long this one would be. I was like, okay, what did I do? Went to Maui, and now I'm editing this entire week. But hey, that's life. That's what's happening. And man, when I finish those videos, it feels good. Like, I'm like, oh, that's such a great documentation of our day. And we all sit down as a family and watch them. And then to see all the comments pour in from people that enjoy it. I love it. I love what I'm doing here. So I'm so thankful for that. So thankful to have the opportunities that I've had in my life. And I'm thankful for you listening to this episode. I hope you guys have a glorious week. I promise you I'll be back next Sunday with another episode, or whenever you listen to this during the week. We're not going to miss any more until our next travel thing, but I'll try to get things done ahead of time. So maybe I can sneak a little thing out there. We've got, again, 2 more weeks, I think, of 3 questions. And then there's going to be a whole new series that comes out. I almost just want to do these in rapid fire succession. New series coming out called Ask Greg or something along those lines. Name pending, but it's just going to be where I answer a whole bunch of questions and get us all thinking, which is fun to do sometimes, right? Sometimes it's fun not to think, like we were talking about in listener feedback. Sometimes it's good. So on that, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you and find you in the next Missing Pieces.